Hey, everybody. So if you have been hanging out with us for the last couple seasons of the podcast, you probably remember us mentioning Flaututi in our past episodes. Our friend Molly Sharp, who incidentally was also a guest in season 1, started Flaututi to share her awesome duet arrangements of standard viola rep, which are great for teaching, and it has now grown into a wide-ranging catalog of one-of-a-kind resources for violists and beyond. Steph, do you remember when we played one of the duets from a holiday bundle together?
Yes, it's one of my most cherished holiday memories.
Aww.
But actually, one of my favorites is something that all string instrumentalists would love. It's called Making Double Stops Ring, a guided exploration of just intonation. And Molly actually shared the viola version with us last year, and I am not exaggerating when I say that it completely changed the way I think about intonation. No one has ever explained it to me like this before. I think that we all realize on some level that a B in all situations is not the same, but why?
Yeah. Have you ever had that classic argument in a string quartet setting when you're trying to tune a chord and maybe we're playing that B and we're being told, no, it needs to go lower. No, it needs to go higher. It needs to go here. Wouldn't it be amazing to save all those hours for our string quartet students with no debate? We just know where it's supposed to go. Everyone agrees because there's only one way.
Right. You can just gift them copies of this book.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing personal. Just here's a book about intonation. Well, Molly has made it easy for all of us to play in tune. So whether you play viola, violin, cello, or bass, there's a version for you. You can find this pragmatic book, viola duet arrangements of classic viola repertoire, and so much more at vlatutti.com under Marketplace, or look in this episode's show notes.
I found out I have to get a crown, which, yeah, never had to do anything like that before.
Well, now you're royalty.
I guess. He's like showing me the x-rays, and of course I don't know what the x-ray says. I'm looking at this tooth. I'm like, I mean, I don't know if that's a healthy tooth or a bad tooth. I have no idea. But it was just funny the way he said it. He's like, sometimes it's hard for us to spot. And I'm like, really? Isn't that your job?
You have one job.
You have one job.
Well, wait till they tell you that you have to stop eating certain things because your teeth are getting old.
No.
One moment you're eating a bowl of popcorn and with some almonds sprinkled in, and the next you need a root canal. Nobody tells you about this.
No, nobody does tell you, but there's so many things that you're not prepared for. And one of them was, if you floss and brush your teeth regularly, then you'll have healthy teeth. You don't have to worry about problems like crowns or root canals or whatever. And that's just not true. It's just a lie. Mm-hmm. It's a plain old lie.
Malarkey. Welcome to the Viola-centric podcast. We are two curious violists exploring the art of connection through conversations with each other and our friends. I'm Stephanie Knutson.
And I'm Liz O'Hara Starr, and we're both professional freelance musicians living in the DC metro area. I've made kale chips in the oven before, but I've never had them in an air fryer.
If you have an air fryer, they take literally less than 3 minutes, and they're like potato chips. They're so good.
Yes.
So good.
Because kale can be a little tough if it's not really cooked down.
Yeah, like a little hard on the jaw.
Exactly. A lot of chewing, as we know.
A lot of
the older
masticating.
It's good to not have things that our teeth have to work too hard to do.
It brings us full circle.
It's totally. And then there's Robin.
Yes. What a joyful person.
Oh gosh.
She's just so amazing and strong.
Yep.
And it was such a pleasure to have her, to talk with her for that long. I don't think I've had the chance to really get into anything with her before. And, you know, it's like we said before, how we get a chance to talk like at breaks or after gigs, very briefly, like in a noisy bar or whatever. But very rarely do you really get into it and get into people's like origin stories and other aspects of their life. You just don't have time to do that. Mm-mm. And it was such a joy to hear about all of the facets of her life.
Yes. Yeah. And I've always felt like she is an open book. She's transparent about everything. She's 100% authentic. And she shares a lot in the written word online, especially since she's started the nursing work. She writes these beautiful things about her experiences in that. And it was wonderful to be able to hear her voice speak these stories. And I'm still kind of digesting some of the big takeaways I have from that conversation about life. She had a really difficult experience that kind of forced her into growth and into awakening and into embracing who she fully is and going for it and making the difficult choices and seeing what comes out on the other side. And some of the things she has to say about that, it'll speak to everyone.
Yeah, it's so inspiring how you can take something that is objectively a horrible thing and come out on the other side of it in a form that's truer. It's even more true than where you came from,
Mm-hmm.
and how painful experiences can be the catalyst for rebirth like that. And she's just a prime example. I mean, just flourishing. I can't wait for our listeners to hear about her experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful way, I think, to start a new year, especially after a really hard year. I'm not really into official New Year's resolutions, but would you have a resolution, or would you have a something you'd think about, an intention you'd set for the year 2021, or a reflection on 2020?
I think what really resonated with me in our conversation with Robin was my desire to be as authentic as possible with my own life by being as true and honest and embracing the yuck, you know,
Yep.
like the best decision isn't always the most comfortable decision, but that doesn't mean that you can't get through it, that we can do hard things.
Glennon Doyle reference.
Mhm. Mhm.
Thanks, Glennon Doyle.
Yep. How about you, Liz?
At the beginning of 2020, I was already having a pretty difficult time
Mhm.
for various reasons, and I created a vision board. It was a workshop of sorts with the one and only Jennifer Wade. She kind of put something together for us where we did a little bit of reflection. We did a meditation, and then we did some journaling, and we kind of came up with an intention in our minds about the year of 2020 before we started pulling things out of magazines.
Mm.
And what's interesting about that is I came up with like a little map of the way this vision board was going to look. And then I started pulling things out of magazines, just things that appealed to me, like someone doing a tree pose on the beach.
Anybody who knows Liz knows that that is her happy place.
Yes, it is.
Is in the sun on the beach.
And I'm pulling these things out of the magazine and I'm going, I don't know what this is going to have to do with what I did in this journaling exercise. Like, these don't seem related whatsoever. I have no idea how this is going to work. And yet I started to put them all together. And sure enough, almost all of the things I had pulled out of these magazines fit. And in the middle, I found this, I guess they were probably exercises in like Yoga Journal or something. But the title was A Year of Identity. And I just thought, all right, I know I'm on a journey this year. I know this is going to be a crazy year. Little did I know just how crazy it was going to get. But I just kind of set this intention to be authentic from the start. And I also just had this mindset of being brave and doing the hard things from the get-go. I had no idea what I was in for in terms of personal growth, but it's amazing to me what this year, when I look back on it, has been about. I know this is going to sound... It is a bit selfish, and I'm okay with that. It's been about me figuring out me and understanding me on a level I've never before. And I'm really happy and excited about that, despite how difficult the year has been in terms of what we're all going through collectively and things that I'm going through personally. There's just so much Robin said last night that I just was nodding my head, like full body nod, because I just feel every ounce of it. And yeah, this year has been very pivotal for me. So I think for 2021, I just want to keep leaning in, you know?
Yeah.
I want to follow the path that my gut tells me to follow in every aspect of my life. That's the goal. That's what started this between the two of us.
Yeah. To challenge ourselves to be authentic and to challenge people who are listening to be true to their inner voice, finding whatever that is for you and connecting to it and holding it up as your truth and letting go of all the filters, or at least some of the filters.
Boundaries. I need to learn about that. Actually, that's a big one.
Mm.
It's a big one. Boundaries. We talked about that last night too.
Mm-hmm.
Just understanding where those boundaries are needed
Mm-hmm.
and understanding actually what a boundary is.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, I just always thought of boundaries as this wall, and I hate the idea of that. I hate the idea of walling myself off, and I hate the idea of making someone else feel like they're walled off from me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what they are, and that's been a kind of a pleasant experience very recently for me. There are a couple of times that I would safely say I have exercised establishing some boundaries, and they have had positive effects. So that's kind of cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Because I think that as freelance musicians, we rarely have, especially when you're starting out, you don't have boundaries.
Mm-mm.
You're like, yes, yes, yes. And yes, I will take some more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was a pleasant experience or not, because you're just so afraid of it being taken away if you establish those boundaries. So it's a growth area for a lot of us.
Yes. But yeah, our second episode.
I mean,
here we are.
That's all we need to do, right? It's just keep putting out the next one, right?
One foot in front of the other.
Doing the next right thing.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yep.
If you're listening to this, we're so glad that you're with us. We're on this journey together, and that's an exciting thing. So stick with us. It can only go up from here.
Yes. And I have to say, too, we both are grateful for the interest so far. We've had a really supportive and positive response to what we did the first time around. Mm-hmm. It's been so lovely to hear from some of our friends and some of our colleagues about their experience in listening to the first episode. So thank you for tuning in. And if you like what we're doing, please feel free to subscribe, to rate, to review. We want to hear from you. violacentric@gmail.com is our email address. If you have questions, if you have ideas, perspectives to share, insights to share, we want to hear from you.
Yeah. And enjoy this wonderful conversation with our friend Robin.
So, Robin, tell me about your day. I want to know how this adventure was that you went on with Samara.
Oh, it was beautiful. So, first of all, thank you for having me. This is really, really dope. I'm just so proud to be a violist, of course. But to be on the show, this is really awesome. I'm proud of both of you for using what you have. It's not always about, the money or the studio space. I mean, you literally took what you have and you've created a beautiful platform to connect all violists everywhere. So
we're trying.
thank you for having me. This is amazing. To answer your question, Samara Samara is my little girl. She's 14, although in my mind she's 4.
Yeah, she's frozen in time at 4 for me too, I think, actually.
Exactly. I still look at her and I'm like, what? The good news is that I'm allowed to call her my bear again, which is amazing.
Oh, yay.
But yeah, we use Saturdays and Sundays are our adventure days. So we take those days and we go explore. The usual premise is ice cream, where we use ice cream as a way to find cool stuff in Georgia. We've only been here for 3 months now, going on 4. So we're still kind of fish out of water, but it's an adventure. So today we went to Stone Mountain. It's beautiful. It's a big quartz mountain, and there's a famous carving in the side of the mountain, which has 3 soldiers from the Confederacy, which everything is Confederate down here. So that takes some getting used to as well. We can talk about that later.
Yep.
But it was really cool to see that and just kind of, get outside. It's December 27th and it's 60 degrees. How cool is that? Amazing. But we did have a white Christmas here in Georgia. This is the first time in maybe 15 years, I think, here. And I was shocked. I looked out the window. I came home from work and was like, wait a minute. Is that what Is it snow? Ah! Like, it's crazy.
First of all, I love that you have adventure weekends, and I love that ice cream is a motivator because who isn't motivated by ice cream? But also, this is so huge because you just moved like 3 months ago in the middle of a pandemic. You moved to be closer to your mom, right?
Yes.
So, are you from there? I mean, I was under the impression that you were from Pennsylvania.
Yes, which our Steelers just made the playoffs. Okay, okay.
Right? They just clinched. Woohoo!
So I had to throw that in there.
Thank you for that, because I don't know that our listeners who don't know me don't know how hardcore of a Steelers fan I am, but also Robin is. She's doing her happy dance right now.
I'll just pretend to celebrate with you. I'm the Washington football team fan
That's right.
for the
I'm
longest
sorry
time.
about the
So,
WFT today, girl.
Respect, respect.
I mean, what can you do?
So, what's the journey for your family to get into Georgia and then for you to make this decision, this huge decision, because you've been in Baltimore for a long time?
No, it's hard to move physically, emotionally, spiritually. It's hard to pick up your feet and go in a different direction, especially when things otherwise are not bad. you know, I certainly never thought of myself ever moving this far south of the Mason-Dixon line. Let's be honest. I made this decision very quickly, but with a lot of clarity. My mom moved to Atlanta when she and my dad divorced 5 years ago. That was really hard for me. My family is the bedrock of my soul. I've always been very, very close, very tight knit, and primarily on my mom's side. My mom's side is the Jamaican side, and we're all just, intertwined. And my dad's side is in Pittsburgh, but I was born there. Anyway, I moved to Maryland when I was in middle school, and I was there for a long time. Pittsburgh's in my heart, but has been my physical home for more than half of my life now. But when my parents divorced, my mom moved here because this was the first city that she moved to when she emigrated from Jamaica. So Atlanta was home to her.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of a special place for her. My older brother happens to live here as well, but he lives in another city. So that kind of made it even more attractive for her to move here. And I didn't envision myself living here until I visited a few times. I was becoming more concerned about my mom's health. My younger brother has a lot of health challenges as well. And so, my mom aging, she's a diabetic, her mobility has declined over the last few years. And I just kind of was reading the tea leaves the last few times that I had visited. I just felt like she was slowing down a little bit. My brother was less stable each time. And I just said, I know I need to be there. I wrestled with it for a while because Baltimore has been so wonderful for me in terms of life, in terms of music and everything. You all are my heart, my circle. It's hard to leave your circle. It's hard to leave your homies. But I said, I only have one mom. I only have one, well, I have two brothers, but I only have one baby brother. And whatever I think that I have in Maryland, God will give me more if I just let it go. So I literally let everything go. I didn't even say that I was moving. I didn't tell people that I was moving.
No, we had no idea. I was like, oh, wait, you're not here anymore? Crazy.
Yeah, if there was any time to really just be able to make a break, no questions asked, it's during a pandemic when everything's virtual anyway, right?
Yeah, yeah, that was a huge motivating factor. Although I felt like I was jumping out of a frying pan in a way because I didn't have a job, I didn't have contacts down here. I just knew my mom was here, and that's my heart. My mom's my heart. So I said, I'll just go, and God will provide the rest, and He has, and He is.
You just threw out so many of these insights. And one of the big ones that popped into my head just now when you said was trust. trust that when you feel like this is the move you need to make, that it's going to be okay, even when the steps to get there are super scary in some cases. And also, we talk a lot about this concept of having our inner voice and allowing ourselves to hear it, even when there's a lot of noise around us that doesn't allow us to do that. And it seems to me anyway that that's kind of what this was. It was something telling you from inside that this was the right thing for you to do, and to be brave enough to listen to that and go for it. And again, trust is, I mean, it's just, I'm happy for you.
Thank you. That means a lot. It's a lot of times I think what looks crazy oftentimes is the right thing to do. The best art is asymmetrical. It's ugly, it's jagged, it's not beautiful. Even with music, for me, there's so much complexity and interest and dissonance as opposed to harmony. I'd like to lean into the dissonance. I think we all do that as violists anyway, but the rub, you know, I like to call it the gray space between the notes. For me, that's where music happens, where I can't control anything. I love being in that space. I thrive being in that space because for me, that's a very pregnant space where there's potential and there's possibility. It's not on the page. I get to create it. That to me is where I am right now. Very literally, I barely know where I am. Like I'm in Georgia, but it's like a blip on the map, and I'm like, okay, I don't really know what the surroundings look like, but I'll figure it out. I don't know what's happening in this political climate, but I'm going to do my part.
Yeah, that's definitely a philosophy. I mean, it's just do the next right thing, right?
Mhm.
Whatever your inside tells you is the next step. Sometimes you can't think too far ahead
Yes,
and have a plan because then you're just setting yourself up for those plans to be dashed.
exactly.
Oh, if that isn't something we're learning from the pandemic, I don't know what.
Yeah. Robin, I'm super curious. It was a few years ago when I knew you as a freelance musician. And Robin is an amazing, sensitive player. She has a beautiful sound. She's engaged musically all the time. There's never been a gig that we played together that I haven't left feeling like you left it all on stage. You're present.
Absolutely.
You're always there in the performance.
Thank you.
And I just admire that so much about you. And so it came as kind of a surprise to me that you made a choice to expand your horizons into something that's obviously so natural for you, going into healthcare. And I'm just super curious about what inspired you to make that change and how you felt making that transition, or if you feel like it was a transition at all.
I've always known that I wanted to be a nurse, and I've always known that I've wanted to be a musician. And it sounds kind of strange. They don't seem very relatable at the outset, at least. But when I was 4 years old, I blurted out to my dad, I want to be a nurse. I didn't even know what that meant. I just said, I want to be a nurse. What I knew was that nurses take care of people. And I always knew that I wanted to take care of people. So for me to say that I wanted to be a nurse, I don't know that I knew exactly what that entailed, but I knew it meant presence, I knew it meant touch, and I knew it meant healing. Then a whole year later, which is gigantic for a kid, I discovered the piano and I was in love. And then later on, I started violin and I knew I was on like half a leg. So I was like, I'm trying to make this sound on the violin. It's not really working, but I'll do what I can. Then I found the viola and my whole world opened up. I seriously found my voice, of course, when I found the viola. That was me. I had these two concurrent dreams, but music has a way of taking over if you let it, and it did. And I'm so happy that it did, and it still does, because that's my passion. When I was going in for my undergrad, and through life's happenings and pain and that sort of thing as you get older, I found myself becoming a more alive musician, I guess, less concerned about perfection, more concerned about connection. I went through a terrible divorce and it ended up catapulting me back to myself. I was forced to look at myself so closely. And I knew that I was struggling to maintain my passion, my life, my joy, and be there for Samara and show her what it is to be a strong woman, a strong mom, and yet be authentic and honest enough to say, Mommy's hurting, Mommy's not happy. It was an abusive marriage, which I can talk more about later or not. But the point of that is, it made me have to stand up and say, what do I want for myself? Not just what do I want for Samara? What do I want for me? It was very difficult. And I just sat and I just said, I'm going to spend time in meditation and just think, what do I want for myself? And this sounds really silly, but I saw this commercial for my local community college and it said, you can get there from here. And that's their tagline, Howard Community College in Columbia, Maryland. And I kind of rested on that and I thought, I wanted to be a nurse years ago. Maybe it's not too late. Maybe I can still do it. I just said, you know what? Let me try. I'll just show up there, see what I have. Nursing school is notoriously difficult. So it was wretched at times. I didn't stop. I didn't deny myself of any gigs because that's what we do. We love to play.
Right.
I showed up and I was very, very tired most of the time because I was up all night. I was studying. I'm very, very proud of that because I was doing two things that I love to do. I was learning and I was a novice at something. I love being a novice because it means I'm vulnerable and I'm humble. And I would rather stay there than consider myself an expert or a master at anything. And that includes viola. I'm perpetually a student. We are all perpetual students. The moment we think we're not is very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So that's in a very long winded way how I ended up in nursing school. And when I graduated, that was the first time I ever set foot on a stage in my adult life without my viola. And I was terrified.
Feels so naked, right?
Naked. It was very surreal, but it's been a journey. Nurse Robin and violist Robin are the same person. Music and nursing are part of a spectrum for me. And the only thing that's different is maybe the instruments in my hand, but really the main instrument is my heart, my spirit, my ears. I have to listen so intently as a nurse, and it's the same as a musician. So yeah, it's been quite a journey for me, and it's ongoing.
I love that. Once I learned that that's what you were doing as your, full-time endeavor, it just sounded so natural to me because you're obviously a caretaker.
Thank you for not just expressing your vulnerability in music, but also just expressing your vulnerability by sharing some of that story with us. I can say that from a distant standpoint of watching you through that experience, and I saw the awakening that occurred in you after that. And I'm guessing most of us who work with you and know you saw it as well. And authentic is the name of the game. Like you have been that way. I mean, I think you've always been authentic from the second I met you. And I would say, without going into a lot of detail about myself right now, I'm going through a period of awakening for myself. It's been ongoing for the last couple of years, especially in the last year or so, pre pandemic. And to hear you share things about what that was like for you, I can really relate. And I think there are probably a lot of people who can relate no matter where you are on that journey. Everyone has to go through something really hard to get you there. There's that inescapable growth in pain.
Yes.
And beyond that, the ability to step back and see who you are, see what you're really made of. It's just so special for you to be willing to share it so openly. So thanks for doing that, my friend.
Thank you for allowing me to do that.
There's something about rebirth in there too. I feel like that you're almost shedding a skin and whatever you're reborn as is truer. and it can be painful, but it's more you than the version that came before.
Yes.
And that's so powerful, and you need to be strong to go through it, but whatever you come out as on the other side is new and improved, it's more you.
Yes, my mom years ago, when I was going through my divorce, she started calling me her black butterfly. And that has kind of become my persona for myself. The last few years for me, I've been in a cocoon and emerging as something very different. My last live recital was in February, like most of us. But my title for that recital was Metamorphosis because I feel that the last few years of my life have been a metamorphosis that's ongoing. I think to go back to your point, Twinny, about pain, for me, that is the common denominator between souls is pain. We all suffer. We all have pain. And without acknowledging that pain, there's no way to connect with someone else. And I think a lot of people are afraid to connect because to connect means you have to acknowledge that pain, right? One of the things that, as a nurse, for me, is so important is to be able to see someone's pain and to meet them where they are. They call it caregiver's guilt, where you can say, oh, I'm healthy, I'm well, and I'm taking care of someone who's sick. You have to face that and throw that away and say, they may be sick, but I have pain, I have my own struggles. So I can sit by your bedside and meet you exactly where you are and still empathize because I know what it is to hurt. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken with a patient who might be a woman who has been abused or has been an addict or some other difficult situation that I can directly relate to because of my brokenness, my own brokenness, the brokenness of being a human. Those things inform us in how we connect with other people. And they inform me as a musician because my music all of a sudden isn't about necessarily what the composer wrote. Of course it is, I reference that, but I'm going to throw my own grave into there to make that gravy just to say, sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a childless mother. Oh, whatever. I'm going to throw it in there because that's my experience. That's my story.
Yeah, and I think music, I think it's a way for us to access the pain that we don't know how to feel without it. And when you can get to a point where you're able to acknowledge that pain without something intangible like music, that's like next level. I think that's like leveling up or something in the terms of awareness. I consider you to be very empathic. I think that's another thing that we have in common. Do you find that difficult when you're with someone who's really suffering? I mean, how do you take that? Do you take it home?
I do. I've been advised not to, but I can't. I can't deny who I am. To do so would be to deny myself. Even as a musician, I'm going to feel. I have to feel. And if that means that I have to cry, that means I am going to cry. And I cry every day. I cried every day before I became a nurse, and now even more so. I see people die. I see people come back to life. I hear people in their final moments expressing regret or expressing peace. These are all very powerful experiences that I feel very blessed to witness and just to be a very small part of. I created a little thing for myself, which I call my happy yellow bubble. Yellow is my favorite color, of course, and I have this bubble that when I'm nurse Robin, mostly, some as a musician sometimes, but mostly as a nurse, I bop around in my yellow bubble, and it's penetrable. People can come into the bubble. I can invite people in, or I can push people out if I have to. Usually, I don't have to, but it's a protective mechanism because when I first started as a nurse, I was in the ER setting, which is very rough. It's like rough and tumble. I mean, people are screaming at you, people are cursing, spitting, fighting. I mean, it's very aggressive. And here I come, yay! But the funny thing is, a lot of my coworkers are like, "Oh, Robin's not gonna last. She's way too nice. She does not fit in here." And I was in Baltimore, and no less. But I created this happy yellow bubble so that I could be myself. I could walk into a room. I could have someone cursing at me for whatever the case may be, and I could still be Robin and still love you, but I still have my boundaries. The funny thing is, before I became a nurse, I was not very good at establishing boundaries for myself. Everything was yes.
Mm.
I said yes to everyone. Yeah, listen, we all do, right? Because you think, oh, I need to get the job. I need to impress this person. No, I started really looking at myself like, what are the things that are most important to me? I'm protecting my peace. So for the last 4 years or so, I've been very, very intentional about how I start my days, how I give out my energy, and how I preserve my energy. And then that lent itself very naturally into nursing because as a nurse, everyone's tugging at you. You walk by a room, you might not even be that person's nurse. Having this little yellow bubble has helped me outside of nursing. It's helped me in my life. I'm a single mom. I'm not dating anyone right now because I just don't want to invite energy that is going to be negative. It's not helpful for me. So until that lovely person fits that bubble, I have a little girl who's looking up at me watching my remove. So I don't want to make the same mistakes I made before. I want to be wise. So I am being still.
It's so good. And it's like a struggle of a lifetime to establish your healthy boundaries and to keep them. And
Or allow them to shift. They can shift.
yes, but just that the amount of reflection you've done to have that, I love that yellow bubble idea. That is so great. It's just beautiful.
So, Robin, now that you have immersed yourself in healthcare, what part does music play in your life?
Music for me has always been what feels right. I only say yes to a job if it feels right or if it's something that I really care about. And a lot of times that means it might not be the most lucrative job, but it's something that I love and something that excites me. Music for me is very sacred. And that's my evenings. I used to be a night worker when I started, I was a night crawler nursing, and now I have a daytime schedule so that when I come home, I can play Babalu, Babalu my viola. That's like my viola time. It's in the evenings. I'm in a new place, so I don't know what the music community here is like. I burst into tears the other day. They had a broadcast of like a truncated version of the Atlanta Symphony playing Sleigh Ride, and I burst into tears. Like
I know. We didn't get our sleigh ride offbeats this year. It's awful.
It's so sad. I want to play Nutcracker. I want to play Sleigh Ride. Give me that experience again. I miss it. Bring us back. I'm ready. I'm so ready for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Bring on the Messiah. Even if I'm sitting Tootie, you just sit there and nap.
Yeah, or soak it up. I mean, I feel like I'll never listen to the movements I'm tacit on the same way again. I'll just sit there and I'll be like, oh my God, every note of this is perfection. Like,
It's perfection. It's
why have I
perfection.
just been sitting here waiting for the time to go by on every gig? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about that stuff, you know?
Perspective is everything.
Yes.
It is everything, literally.
I have this wish for us when we start gigging again that we won't be in that mindset that was like, show up 20 minutes before the downbeat and then you're out the door the second it's done and you're not present. All of the little parts of the experience, the music you get to listen to. I'm always kind of a like, please try to cherish every second of my life person to begin with. But there's something I wish that we would do that I want a conductor out there that I work with to hear this and go, that's a great idea. I want to have a gig where before the conductor starts the first downbeat of the first piece we play, he or she does their bow, turns around on the podium, and for like 30 seconds, we all just sit and breathe and be in the moment together and then make music.
I think that's essential.
I want to see that mentality change to a sense of community with all of us as freelancers when we come back.
Yes.
Robin, can I ask you just to go back and talk about what inspired you to found Musicians of Mercy and what it's all about and what you guys do?
Sure. Musicians of Mercy is, in short, it's a collective of, I'm blessed to say, my friends. It's a collective of artists and musicians who join together and we put on benefit concerts for different humanitarian causes. It was birthed out of the earthquake in Haiti. That, for me, was a pivotal moment in my life when I looked at the news and I saw this little country of people who look a lot like me, completely ravaged by a natural storm. I felt very angry and I felt very helpless. Much like I described when I talked about nursing, I literally just sat for hours. What can I do? I don't like feeling helpless ever. And finally, I thought, well, I'm an artist, I'm a musician. I don't have money. I can't fly there and take care of people. I'm not even a nurse yet. What can I do to help people? And I thought, well, I have a gift. One of my gifts is connecting, being with people. And I thought, all right, well, I have lots of wonderful friends. Maybe I can just see if I can just organize a concert and maybe that'll be helpful. And that was literally how it started. So basically, every concert, we've been married to a charity and allowing the funds raised from the concert to benefit that particular charity. However, as time went on, it occurred to me that it doesn't always have to be about fundraising because, quite frankly, I hate money. I find it to be very limiting. I find it to be very divisive. And so some of the concerts were more conceptual, for instance, gun violence or heart health, that kind of thing. And for me, it was about not just professional musicians, but it was about let me reach out to this amateur violinist who feels that they don't have a place in the music community. Have a seat next to me. Let's play. Let's make some music. So it's not just about raising funds, it was about, or is about, let's connect our community through art and use it as a platform to love the world.
I had a few experiences playing for Musicians of Mercy events. We did a concert for Fern.
Foreign Information Referral Network,
Yes.
based in Howard County, that helps immigrants to find resources and even protection, especially women who are vulnerable coming from other countries, particularly Latin American countries. So it's been a very, very wonderful charity.
Yeah, I think that was my first time playing something for Musicians of Mercy. And I just remember that there was a platform for people who were receiving assistance from that organization sharing their stories, which was very impactful. But in addition, the feeling of community that was created among the musicians was very special and something I remember now. And that was what, a decade ago. I mean, it was a long time ago, and that stuck with me. I think that says a lot about the intention behind what you created. That's the purpose for us to get together and do it. And you can feel it. You know, you can really feel it when someone's heart is behind something. Very special.
Yeah, it's so clear that that's behind everything that you're about, Robin. It's just about
Yes,
connection.
thank you.
That's what it just touches Liz and I so much because we are about connection and building a community between people who value music
Yes.
and what they can do with it. And I feel so connected to that driving force that's within you.
Thank you. That to me, when someone asks what my passion is, I don't say music, I say connection. Music is a medium, art is a medium, yoga for me is a medium. nursing as a medium, but it's always about connection with people.
Yeah. The role of a violist is connecting things together, supporting, being relatable, providing the push and the pull when you need it. As you said, instigating. I love that. I like lead from within. That's one of my things. It's like we lead from the middle, you know?
Yes.
So I suspect we're going to see a thread here among us fellow violists that connection is a huge part of our lives. It's just huge.
I just wanted to give that some space.
Yes, me too. You mentioned yoga, and I know how amazing you are at yoga. For anybody who hasn't seen Robin share her yoga photos, oh my God, you can twist your body into some amazing things, girl.
I haven't seen these.
Oh, they're amazing.
What secret Instagram account is this on?
It's Musicians of Mercy.
Okay.
Did you always do yoga, or was this part of your process of discovering you more?
Awakening.
This is literally an outgrowth of just self-discovery. It's something that I was always interested in, but I think I was afraid to explore because honestly, I didn't think I'd be good at it. Musicians, we're all perfectionists in some way. And I just was like, I'm just not going to bother. And then I ended up being challenged by a friend of mine. Just try it. I think you would be good at it, Robin. You just have the right mindset. And so I said, you know what? I'll dip my toe in. And then once I dipped my toe in, I was like, wait a minute, this feels kind of nice. And literally, I fell in love, and it became like I found another instrument. Yoga for me is not necessarily about exercise, it's a practice, just like playing the viola, it's a practice. So that's one way that I stay connected to myself. Another way is I particularly like the shape of an arc. And I always say that my whole day is a rainbow. I call every single day a rainbow. And the very beginning of my day is the start of my rainbow that I get to paint. It doesn't have to be a perfect arc, but I start painting it. And so when I wake up every morning, I wake up every morning around 4 or 4:30 because I'm allowing myself to have space to create. And if I don't do that, I don't feel ready to start the day. So I give myself 2 hours to just be. I might read, I might listen to music, I might practice yoga or whatever. I certainly drink coffee because it's my favorite thing. It's my hug and a mug. That's what I do.
Yep.
But creating and being creative is essential to who I am. Writing letters, the written word, that's my love language. To me, there's something so sensual and romantic about taking a pen to paper.
Words of affirmation.
Yes, girl. Words of affirmation. That is my love language.
We're about as close to being twins as we can get, I think.
That's great.
I know. It's just so funny. Somebody said to me the other day, "Oh, I need to have my journal with me all the time because that's how I work things out in my mind." A friend of mine told me that, and I said, "Of course, because when I journal, that's where it all becomes clear if I'm by myself." But I love the idea of writing, and that's something that's one of my inner voice access kind of tools is just to start putting pen to paper.
Yes.
It's amazing what comes out.
Yeah, I didn't realize I was one of those people either. And I think that I'm a mix, but when Liz told me, she's like, "Have you ever done free journaling?" So I was I was actually waiting for a COVID test. I was in my car at one of those major COVID testing sites, just like circled around. It took like 2 hours to get tested, which is fine because I used that time. I was writing actually on the back of a USPS mailing thing. And I just happened to have it in my car. And I was like, I'm going to try this free journaling thing. The whole idea is that you just start writing, and whatever you write is whatever you write. Sometimes it starts with, I don't know what to write. This is writing, blah, blah, blah. And then, as if by magic, your thoughts just coalesce on the page. And I had never done that before. And it was just like, okay, so all that it's in there, it just needs to come out.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other part of my experience anyway is anxiety. I don't think most people who know me, at least on a surface level, would think that I have anxiety. I mean, I'm a little high energy, but I approach life in a laid back way far more than what my brain is actually doing underneath. So for me, there would be these times where I'd try to get into journaling and there'd be prompts and there'd be something that you're supposed to think about. And I would go to, oh my God, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where that's going to come from. But if I set a timer and I say, I'm just going to write about this for 10 minutes, and when that timer goes off, you're done. Just write whatever comes out. And it works so well. And I loved when Stephanie started doing it. She's like, that worked so well. It's an amazing little tool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I actually think it's cool to practice that way. I think a lot of times, especially now, without having that gig to prepare for, a lot of times we feel lost. And for me, it's important just to make sound. But I'll set a real timer on it because, I've got a kid. I live with my mom because I'm taking care of her too, helping to and I'd say she's taking care of me as well because that's what moms do. I'm making dinner. We're all busy adulting, right? I'd like to allow like 15, 20 minutes to just play freely, whatever I want. I'll put on music, jam with the radio or not, just play. It just feels good to have this friend under my chin.
Yes.
This is my boyfriend, okay?
There's a lot of love coming from Babalu.
Yes. Babalu's that dude, okay?
I need a name for mine too.
You have to let it marinate.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you come up with Babalu anyway? Just came to you?
No, my favorite show on planet Earth is I Love Lucy. And Ricky Ricardo's signature song is Babalu, Babalu. But the roots of Babalu, it's so Afro-Cuban. It's actually very much like a call to the gods. So it just has that depth to it where Babalu is my connection to God. It's just it's a Pisces thing.
I love it so much. Everything about it. I'm like, yep. I think I'm the only one drinking tonight. Stephanie, did you get a drink? You didn't do a drink tonight?
No.
This is my new thing. Stephanie says it's my old lady drink.
It's her granny drink.
It's hot herbal peppermint tea with vodka in it.
That's what Mrs. Claus drinks.
That's so great.
It was born out of desperation. I didn't have any seltzer water or lemons. And so I was like, I don't have my normal mix-ins and it's cold. What am I going to do?
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect.
Robin, is there anything else that you want to share about? You wanted to talk about?
I just want to say thank you. For me, one of the most important things in life is to show gratitude, but not just to show it, to practice it. And I literally start each day intentionally grateful. I don't always feel happy. I don't always feel full, but I practice feeling grateful. And so in this moment, I am fully grateful just to be able to laugh with you, to be able to see both of you, to be able to hear and share some of our collective vulnerabilities. I think that more conversations like this need to happen because, quite frankly, we've all been isolated for the better part of 9 months. And I don't believe that we were created to be isolated,
No.
which goes back to connection.
Mhm.
But before there is connection, there has to be gratitude. I tend to live my life in the desire that when someone looks at me, they see someone who is grateful, they see someone who's joyful, because I choose to be that way, not because I haven't gone through hell, because I have. To me, there's nothing more important than showing people that you appreciate them. And that includes this moment right now. I'm grateful to be with each of you because I won't get this moment back. And I've been looking forward to it since you invited me, to have a moment to connect with two people who I admire, two people who I love, two people who make me laugh and make me look at life differently. There's a gift in that, and I'm thankful for it.
Oh,
Well, this time has definitely been a gift for us.
We were so excited, even at the thought of you joining us to talk. So we're grateful for you too, my friend, our friend. Thank you so much for listening to the Viola-centric podcast. If you enjoy what you're hearing and would like to support us, please consider a contribution through the PayPal or Venmo links in our episode notes. Once again, I'm Liz O'Hara Starr.
And I'm Stephanie Knutson. We release new episodes every other Monday, so please subscribe so you don't miss one. In the meantime, connect with us on Facebook and on Instagram and email us at violacentric@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening.